Let's watch another CNN panel, this one discussing Trump's day one plans. By the time this video is out, some of those plans might be put in action. But, it's the executive actions, the kinds of things we can expect to see his first week that he'll be rolling out, and we'll add whatever context or fact checks might be needed to put with it.
I do think, there's a lot of discontent in the country, a hangover from the pandemic, inflation. And people really wanted to give this town an angioplasty. The question is, how will it reflect itself and how he executes on this? And will he actually deliver the kind of relief that people are looking for? Or will he just, hit the funny bone of the base on social issues while people's day-to-day lives don't change particularly? And that is going to be the challenge for Donald Trump.
As Trump plans to do hundreds of executive actions in his first days, I think one thing is important to remember is that when Biden came in and did a bunch of executive actions and a lot of them overturning Trump's, he was called a fascist dictator by the right. Like, oh, he's doing an ungodly amount of executive actions and not passing anything through Congress. And even though they then went on to pretend that he should have done border stuff by executive action, even though they were just criticizing him for doing things, again, no consistency. They just say whatever they want that's good at the moment. But now Trump is coming in and planning to do hundreds of executive orders. And they're just like, yeah, own those libs. It's, again, no consistency. But from the reporting I've seen, a lot of these executive orders revolve around things like trans stuff with pronouns and making companies not call trans women women and things like that. And then also with deportations, ICE raids in cities. So essentially, we're going to have ICE walking the streets like the Gestapo, car checking brown people in Trump's first week. Nothing to lower the price of eggs, but hey, at least your Christian professor can call that trans girl a man now.
I think the president laid it out, and Stephen Miller previewed it today to some of the House and Senate leadership. I think we've talked about this earlier today. Immigration will be one of the biggies, right? That leads on securing the border, deporting a lot of bad people, right, who are here. They're criminal aliens here. We have 1,500,000, I think, who already have deportation orders. A couple other 100,000 convicted of rape and murders, and I think they'll go after those people first. I think that'll be kind of the first out of the block. I think the president will sign those at whatever time he's done and start signing. That'll be the first. And hours later, I think you'll see action, perhaps in Chicago and New York, from in a coordinated fashion to get people. You'll see people in zip ties getting put in buses by federal agents, so the American people can see some of that. And then other things, I think, will be on the economy, because David is exactly correct. The president ran on a lot of things. Say that again, man. David Axelrod's correct. People in America, they're tired of being woke and they're tired of being broke.
And that's why this guy is a Republican. He is completely wrong here. He's off. I don't think there's evidence of any substantial amount of voters caring about woke things or voting anti-woke. When polled, most woke positions that they would call that have overwhelming support, right? Like, most people agree with legislation to stem the effects of racism. Most people agree with climate change, are supportive of the LGBTQ. Whatever it is, like this woke thing, it's like an incredibly niche online thing. Like MAGA, when they're terminally online, that's all they care about. Not even MAGA, like that's real life, right? Because you're not going to walk up in your real life and just randomly walk in on someone who's like angry at trans women. Like, it's only people who interact online. I promise you, that's not a day-to-day interaction that they have.
I think Democrats need to identify what their values are and who they're fighting for. And when Donald Trump does something that is misaligned with their values, they need to call it out and not take the knee and just say we should not say it. But I also don't think that they just need to be obstructionists, like so many Republicans were to our former boss, Barack Obama, like a Mitch McConnell, or when Donald Trump came in the first time. I think people want results, but I still think, based on the speech he just gave today, he will do things tomorrow that are not in alignment with our democratic values, and it gives an opportunity to draw a contrast.
She's exactly right here. The way that I see it, the left has two main goals to achieve this next 4 years if it wants to have success. Build a communications apparatus that can rival MAGA's in a way that your message can get out to the same reach or the same audience sizes that MAGA can with their misinformation. If we can't do that, it'll always be this uphill battle. And this includes also becoming more frequent flyers in these right-wing spaces that are starting to dominate things from big tech to media. That's another thing Kamala should have went on Joe Rogan. Kamala should have went on, Aiden Ross, like a lot of these things, right? The second, though, is to realign your identity with the core in which your base votes on, right? The FDR days, the party of the worker. Biden and Harris both individually saw their most successes focusing their campaigns in this way. Biden was the first president to walk the picket line. He did surprisingly a lot for unions. This is when his presidency was going really well and he was really favorable. When he started focusing it more on like strength abroad and we're in wars and things, it started to fall off. Kamala, when she started to focus more on obviously, Trump is a threat to democracy, it fell off. But again, just the Democratic's brand should be about how it's the only party that considers the worker, and then calling out how Republicans never do, calling out Trump when he does anti-labor things. Moments like when Bernie had his Treasury Secretary, who is a billionaire, admit that he wouldn't raise the minimum wage, calling out the tax cuts and how they favor the rich, right? You need to highlight these things, because if we can first get our message out to the same audience size that Republicans are, but we were unable to this time in the way that they control media narratives in this country. And then while we do that, we're highlighting to those voters in the middle, because these are the essential ones, that despite what Republicans might campaign on, here's how they actually govern.